Val Gilman is the Ward 4 Councilor and City Council President. She joins us again on Cape Ann today. How are you, Val?
I'm great. How are you, Corey?
Great. Thanks for joining us.
It's always great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, Val. So, new year, new leadership, lots of stuff to unpack right now. Do you want to touch upon the proposed zoning amendments?
Yeah,
So
I want to hear about the ward meetings. That's what I want to hear.
Okay, right. The planning board has asked us on the city council to consider their recommendations. And there are actually 6 amendments and 3 sub-amendments that we're looking at right now. And we've had a couple of meetings, one on January 5th, one on January 19th at Planning and Development. And at the end of the second meeting, we were really beginning to feel like we really needed to reach out to our individual neighborhoods as ward councilors and hear more from our constituents. So I was given the task to set up and help lead the execution of those 5 meetings in terms of finding Zoom hosts from our city clerk's office that were available to do 5 different meetings, which is always a challenge because they're very busy. And while Jason Grow, who's chair of P&D, was working on all the zoning matters that were in front of us, and being on planning and development, it was kind of a perfect way that we could work together. So as a result, we scheduled 5 meetings with each of the ward councilors. We've already done wards 2 and 5. And now we have 3 more set up for one for the 7th of February for Ward 3, which is Councilor Frank Majota. And co-hosting with him will be Jason Grow, who chairs P&D. And then I'll be doing Ward 4, and that will be on the 9th of February. And I will be the host, and co-hosting with me will be Tony Gross, Councilor at Large, who lives in Ward 4. And then finally, Scott Memard, who's the ward councilor for Ward 1. He'll be doing his session on the 10th of February, and co-hosting with him will be Jason Grow. So we're really excited about these meetings. The first meeting, we had 40 people in attendance. At the meeting last week, where I was a scribe for Sean Nolan in Ward 5, we had 60 people, 14 people that spoke. And as a result of these meetings, we're coming out with scribing so we can really get to the details of what the constituents in that particular ward, what they thought they supported in the amendments and what they didn't support. And the most important part was why. And so that's what we're doing. We're actually listening to our constituents and documenting what they say, and we'll be reporting back to Planning and Development when we go back there later on in February to talk about the results. So I think they've been successful. We've tightened up some of our training documents. We felt that some of the amendments were very factual, but very difficult to understand. So we have a user-friendly summary now of what they all mean. And that's now in the packets, and that's available on the website under P&D documents right now. So process improvement and great way to hear from our constituents.
Nice.
So Val, can you just sort of give us the temperature of the wards 2 and 5 meetings? And I guess what I'm really asking is, are you feeling as if people left saying, oh, I thought I understood it, but I realized, did they learn something from these meetings?
I think in the first meeting, Tracy O'Neill was the first one to start. And I thought she did a really good job. But at that point, some of the documents that we were using, we didn't make them as easy to understand as we should have. So we modified and we came up with something that was tighter and easier to understand for the second session. So, and now we have that template. So I think that people, the first session were a little bit confused, and they shared that repeatedly. They needed to know where the documents were. We fixed that. We've given now exact specific information to where all the documents are as a slide in our presentation. And all those slides are, like I said, now on the city website under city councilors, under standing committees, and you can see all that. So process improvement And people are honest, they're speaking from their hearts. And some people have been in favor and others have not, but we want to hear why. And that just helps us as ward counselors understand how our constituents feel. And that's part of the good process of getting our community involved with the zoning.
Well, I'm dying to ask you what people have learned, but I know you really can't talk too much about these amendments because we're out of the meeting, right? And the meeting rules don't allow you to talk too much about them.
I think what we're trying to do, Heather, is to make sure that people have the facts.
Mhm.
And sometimes people were thinking that understood it to be one way, and perhaps it wasn't that way. And we want people, regardless of how the council votes, when we have our major public hearing, we want our counselors, as well as all of our constituents, to be dealing with the facts and not with myths and fake news. So that's what we're really trying to make sure that is clear. And zoning for some people is easy. I mean, if you're a builder, or if you've gone through a house refurbishing, you understand it. But if you're not, it's not as easy as some people feel. It could be. So we're kind of getting back to basics, and I think we're making progress. And I really like the spirit of how the meetings feel. Most people are very encouraging that we're having them. And what better way to do that is having ward meetings. That's what ward counselors should be doing all the time. And I think it's great. Everyone has a great enthusiasm, and we're making headway, I believe, in getting the right information out.
Can people find those other meetings right now? Are they saved anywhere?
Oh, yeah. Oh, you mean the Zoom meetings are the
Yeah.
two that they've missed?
Yeah.
We haven't posted those yet. I have to follow up and make sure that those are there. But the minutes, the notes from the meetings will be in the P&D packet when we meet again. I believe it's on February 7th, 8th, 7th, 16th. I'm back after all these meetings are over. Then we'll take it up again at Planning and Development, and we'll have all those scribing of all 5 meetings. And as soon as the Zoom recordings get posted, I will post that on our website to make sure that people understand.
That's a lot of feedback for P&D to have to sift through.
It is. And I tell you, Corey, just based on how many emails are coming in every day, it definitely is a lot. And some are coming directly to ward counselors, and then we're trying to get them back to the city clerks to put in our Google Docs. So, and then some people are sending to the city clerk to send to all 9 of us. And I'm sure they're going to be crossing paths, but the most important thing is that we're all reading the feedback from what people are saying, whether it be in support or not. And that will make us better informed when it's time to start with the public hearing and get back to deliberations and discussion.
So the final city council public hearing is when, Val?
So right now it's been continued until February 22nd, 2022. Tracy O'Neill, Council Ward 2, was kind of fun. She kept saying 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, it's like, okay, we've got to remember that. But, and I need to remember that because it's my job if we're not ready to have that public hearing that night. In other words, if P&D has not voted, that public hearing will have to open again, continue the public hearing until we get that recommendation from Planning and Development. The most important thing, and Councilor Grow, who chairs P&D, has been very clear, is that we want to get it right, and we will go as fast as we feel we need to. We want to make sure that we get all this feedback and we really get all of our questions answered and by Greg Catamatori back in public forum, because we're answering a lot. We've been fortunate to have a member of the planning board sitting in on our meeting, Sean Henry, and I think he was on your show last week. And so when we have common questions that come up, he is answering them, which is great. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're answering the questions so all the city councils can hear, and that the public can also hear what the answers are. So they have a more informed idea of what these zoning amendments are all about.
All right. Thanks for that. Okay, shifting gears, Val. You want to touch upon the code of conduct policy that recently passed?
Sure, thank you. So we approved our first code of conduct last year on the Gloucester City Council. And this code of conduct was really, how do we behave as city councilors with each other, with members of administration, with the general public? How do we behave on social media? All of that. And we approved it. And then part of that was at the beginning of every term, which is now, we would bring this in front of each new city council to review it, look at it, see if they like it, and approve it. And I was happy that on January 25th, our full city council approved it, 9 in favor, 0 opposed, and now we're just signing it, and then it will get posted on our city website. It's a good document. It basically also, elected officials are in an odd situation, because if we derail and do something that's not professional, which I hope is not the case, but if we ever do, there's not much that can happen to you in terms of job loss. The job loss basically is you don't get reelected, right? So possibly. So what we're trying to do is give ourselves some teeth in terms of how we can self-assess and behave with each other if someone does something that's unprofessional. So if you say something that is inappropriate in a public meeting and it's hurtful to someone on the meeting, on the city council should call a point of order and ask the chair to please approve that that was inappropriate, what that comment was, and then we can remedy the issue when it happens. And so there are about 4 or 5 guidelines on this code of conduct that actually gives us as city councilors some remedies to make sure that we correct this behavior if we're derailing at any point. And I think it's excellent. It's very popular right now. MMA had 400 people at the webinar last May that I attended right when this was getting ready to present to the full city council. And I think it's a good document, and I was very grateful that the full city council approved it. So all good.
Does this get added to the charter, Val? Is it part of the
No,
charter?
unfortunately, it's a good question, Heather. The only things that we can really modify in the charter right now, which we just did a little bit, was just only the very minor matters, like he, she instead of him. You know, that level of detail. If we're not doing snail mail anymore, you can say by email. The major issues on the city charter can only happen every 10 years. And that's when you get the community to sign up that they want us to be doing this. And then it has to go to the ballot in terms of what the changes are. And that's an entire process. And this past year, which was 2020, we did not get the necessary signatures, which is unfortunate. So we really don't have an opportunity to bring things like that into the charter, but we certainly have it on the city website, and it's something that we're going to hold ourselves accountable to. Question though.
Val, and a lot of new faces in city government this year. Do you feel everyone is getting acclimated nicely?
I think we're doing a great job. We have 2 city councilors that are brand new, and everyone wants to help them on this council. It's great, whether it be putting in a council order or a small request to the mayor. We're all pitching in and trying to make each other successful, which is great. So our first governance meeting was excellent. We only covered about 1/3 of what we needed to, so we have to have some more governance meetings. But I think the spirit is excellent. And my philosophy is that you give feedback to people when they do a good job. And if they go a little bit off, you have a really good constructive conversation about it. Doesn't just have to be coming from me. I'm no more important than any member of our council. It can be peers and colleagues. And it's the spirit of trying to make each other better and giving each other feedback, ongoing feedback. So I'm feeling really good about it. I think we're working really well. Everybody's helping. Everybody has a talent that complements someone else's, and we're trying to find that niche so we can do better things for the city of Gloucester and our legislative branch of government. So I think we're making great headway.
Well said.
Well, you did not pass something called the civility resolution. Do you want to tell us about that? What happened to it also?
So what happened to the civility resolution? The civility resolution was generated at the time when there was pressure in the community to consider being a sanctuary city. And there were folks here that were feeling vulnerable and afraid. And so our former police chief, John McCarthy, and our mayor, Safathia Romeo Taken, took it upon themselves to try to make sure that people felt safe living in Gloucester. Obviously, if someone committed a crime, they would receive the consequences. But if they weren't, we wanted them to know that we had their back and we appreciate and respect diversity in the community. And that was kind of why this occurred. And then recently, the Human Rights Commission last summer took it up and they wanted to wordsmith it a little bit, and they did. They did a nice job. And then when we saw it this past week at our January 25th meeting, a couple of the city councilors, the new ones, felt that perhaps we could put more teeth in it. So what do you do when someone engages in a hate crime? Maybe we need to be a little bit more specific about what the process is, what people do. So we've referred it back to the Human Rights Commission and O&A. First, we'll hear from the Human Rights Commission, and then we'll take it up again in O&A. So we're going to make it better. So we didn't stop it. We just want to make it better. And like I said, everything is a continuous process. We learn from it. And if something doesn't feel quite right, I was happy that members of the council spoke up and we were able to get this in a path where we can take another look at it. So it's all good.
And lastly, Val, we're still digging out from the storm over the weekend. We get asked a lot, what exactly is the role of a city councilor in the case of a big weather event like that or power outages?
And can we call you at home?
Yeah, that's really what we want to get to. Are you?
I get
Please stop
emails
hanging up on us, Val.
all the time, even on weekends.
Your
All
shovel
the time.
out.
It's okay. That's my job. I'm a public servant. But so I love Greg Verga, Mayor Verga's, and CAO Jill Cahill's philosophy. They really want us to get the message out that they're getting out as quickly as possible. So we made this commitment as a city council that as soon as there's a new change, a new update on the city website, we are going to let our constituents know what that change is just by copying and sharing that exact message and getting it out. So I think the first day of Saturday, I probably sent about 15 updates because Public Works was doing a stellar job reminding people about what was happening. There was a 2-hour delay in plowing because we had a massive whiteout. The plow drivers could not see. So we told everybody that's what's happening. If you don't see a plow right now on your street, it's because they can't see. You don't want a plow driver to be driving if they can't see. So let's be empathetic. And I loved that dialogue. And so our job as a ward council is to get that out to our constituents and then to make sure that they know who they need to call. And in this case, we had people staffed at Public Works both days, Saturday and Sunday, so people could call or they could put in a C-click fix with a complaint. And it's that constituent service matter that really is important to people and they want to hear from a person. So staffing that phone call, that call-in was important to us. So, and then of course I go crazy when there's a national grid power outage in Ward 4, because that's the worst thing in the world. I've had a couple power outages here on my street. One lasted about 3 days, one lasted 5, and it was kind of chilly. It was October, November. One was last December. And I mean, that's kind of scary, right? And so what you want to do is you want to let people know how they go about finding out when it's going to be restored. And so posting that information is also very important and helpful to putting our constituents at ease to know that the end is in sight. The crews are in place and they're working to resolve the power outage. So it's all good. It's nerve-wracking though. And because I would say 90% of the people here in this last storm were very happy with this extra communication, but you always have some people that their roads didn't get plowed, you know, and or didn't get plowed as well. And Public Works has been faced with tremendous turnover in contractors because of COVID, and then parts not coming in for their equipment. And, you know, so they have new people on different routes that maybe don't know how far down a road the plowing occurs. And it's a matter of expectations. It's a matter of staffing right now too. And I really appreciate the spirit of the people that are supporting Public Works. And if there needs to be a little fixing up, let's address it. Let's address it after the storm, and let's talk about where we need to correct it. But kudos to city staff and Public Works and all of our services for really coming together. They did a really good job.
Yeah, we appreciate what they do. We certainly appreciate what you're doing, Val. Thanks for checking in again. We'll be sure to pop in soon about as the P&D process unfolds in the next few weeks. We'll hit you up for sure. And and please do not call me or Heather if your cable goes out. We have nothing to do with that, folks. So okay, thanks again for your time, Val.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
This episode of Cape Ann Today is brought to you by J&L Welding.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.